Laterna for this opportunity. I want to thank Pastor and Pastor Mrs. Morgan, Remy Morgan, for the opportunity, and the entire Laterna team. Nneka, it's really a pleasure seeing you again, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity and to be able to hang out with you again today. You know, we're really going to have some fun. Now, I want to start off by telling you that in my own life, in my own little life, you know, I came across the concept of emotional intelligence about 15, 20 years ago. I had just been promoted to managing attorney in a litigation firm in Los Angeles. And I was looking for materials to read to bolster my leadership journey. And I came across an article on emotional intelligence from the Harvard Business School, written by Daniel Goldman many, many years ago. And from reading that one article, it changed my life. Today, I have over 70 books on emotional intelligence in my little library. I've done this for many years. And I want to say, for starters, that this particular book stands out. You know, over 70 books in my own library. I've written my own book on emotional intelligence. But this particular book, Nneka, it stands out. And I want to let the audience know why. So a little background for those who are not very familiar with emotional intelligence. And I know my time is limited. I have about 10, 15 minutes here. Then I'll hand back to you, Nneka, for, you know, to talk to me about the book. And we'll do this, you know, in a conversation. I want people to know that the concept of emotional intelligence, it's really a type of intelligence. Let's start there. It's a type of intelligence that intelligent people practice. So if you're not an intelligent person, you can't practice emotional intelligence. Now think about it. Anywhere you see an intelligent man or woman, there are essentially two things happening. Number one, they're solving complex problems. Not just routine problems, they're solving complex problems. So intelligent people solve complex problems. They also deliver positive results. So in my own theory about emotional intelligence, I came up with a formula, and you will see the concept is in this book. The formula is that emotional intelligence equals DPR. And DPR stands for the desired positive result, which means that every time you deploy, every time you practice this amazing concept of emotional intelligence, you're always going to end up solving problems or delivering the DPR. The DPR stands for the desired positive result. So emotional intelligence is about results. That's the bottom line. Now, people think, Nneka, that emotional intelligence is just about managing anger, so self-control. That's a big part of emotional intelligence. People think that emotional intelligence is just about empathy. That's also a big part of emotional intelligence. People even think that emotional intelligence is about how you communicate, how you pick your words. That's also correct. But today's book highlights an area of emotional intelligence that I don't think we've looked at very carefully. And that is the concept of being able to intelligently motivate yourself when you're down and out, when you're stressed out at work, when you're overwhelmed at work. If you're a woman at work and you're in the midst of men and you're feeling, you know, undermined in terms of your authority, your privileges, and your power as a female, you know, how do you motivate and energize yourself? When things are not going well, when you're overworked, when you're stressed out, when you're juggling multiple demands at work, when the lines between the home and work are blurred, and you're not able to balance work and the home front, and you're, you know, discouraged, despondent, how do you energize yourself? How do you motivate yourself? You know, before I go into the book quickly, and I'm going to summarize, there are some key points here. I read the book twice, changed my life, right? There's some key points here. You know, so here's what I'm saying. Emotional intelligence is DPR. Now, your emotions, which is the E for emotions, I for intelligence, your emotions sometimes can be depleted through stress, through managing home and life. In fact, in Nigeria, where I guess most of us are tuning in from, if you're tuning in from outside Nigeria, we want to welcome you. But if you're in Nigeria, you can imagine what we're going through in Nigeria now. A lot of us are stressed out. The fuel prices are going up, life is tough and all that. So there's so much happening in our lives and we may be depleted. Now let's go into the book. I want to highlight maybe 2 or 3 concepts from this book and then encourage you to get this book. So look at this. The first concept I want to talk about is if you are at work, for example, and you have a complex project, you have something that is overwhelming, something that is burdensome, and you're feeling down and out and overwhelmed. The question is, how do you energize or motivate yourself so that you can intelligently continue to move forward to achieve the results you desire in that complex project? One theory coming out of this book, and I'm sure you saw it, is the progress principle. And what does the progress principle mean? It simply means that in projects that are complex, in projects that are overwhelming, when you're down and out and feeling stressed out, why don't you break the project into small steps? And as you break them into small steps and you deliver on the small steps, you enjoy what experts call small wins. You'll be amazed how that can motivate you, just having small wins on a complex project. I'll give you an example. I've been doing some work in my home, and there's a lot of work going on. You know, this book can help you personally as well, not just professionally. In my home, they're doing some construction now, some renovating. And the thing, you know, because of the fact that I need to supervise these workers, you know the way it is sometimes. If you don't supervise people in your home, they can mess it up. So I've taken the last 2 days off to supervise, and I've been overwhelmed by this, Onyia, just watching people in my home in and out. You know what I did? I took a principle from this book and I said, Chike, it's a complex project in your home. So many things happening, so many parts moving at the same time. Why don't you take them in small bits? Win. And the concept is once you take it in a small bit, focus. You have to have a sense of focus on that small bit. And once you win, Onyia, even though you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed because of the complexity of the project, you begin to feel energy and motivation along those lines. So that's the first concept I want to talk about. It's revolutionary. And why is it an emotionally intelligent concept? Why is it emotional intelligence? It's emotional intelligence because at the point in time, my emotions were depleted. I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed. But if you break down the project into small bits and you win, it's called the progress principle. The second point I want to highlight real quick in terms of energy and motivation is there are times at home or at work where you engage in what this book calls emotional labor. Now, what's the concept of emotional labor? The concept of emotional labor is the concept that says that you have to put on your professional hat at work and put on your game face at work. You don't like what you're doing. So let me give you an example. As a lawyer, I don't like to write. I never liked to write as a lawyer. Preparing motions and writing summary judgment motions, legal documents and drafts. I don't like writing. But put me before a judge and let me talk. You will see Chike blossom. Now, in the law firm, you know, I had to engage in what you call emotional labor, things I did not like. It was laborious. I didn't like it, but I had to do it. Listen to me very carefully. When you're doing work that you don't like, or even at home, I don't like to wash dishes. But you know, I'm married to my lovely wife, Azuka. She needs me to help in the kitchen. I don't like to wash dishes. But sometimes after we've eaten, I have to go into the kitchen to wash dishes. That's emotional labor. How do I get energized and motivated doing the stuff I don't like? Let me tell you the secret from this book, and I love it. The book says, focus on your core values. Put aside your feelings about the work. Put aside your feelings about what you're doing that you don't like, and energize yourself, motivate yourself by asking yourself, what are your core values? So for me, one of my core values is family, loving my family. So at home, I must wash dishes to help my wife and to make the place clean. At work, one of my core values is global excellence in everything I do. So everything I do must pass the litmus test in Lagos, New York, Singapore, Dubai, London, Paris. So even if I'm writing a motion for summary judgment I'm doing a PowerPoint slide that I'm preparing, it must pass the litmus test. I don't like to do those things. They're laborious, but I have to do them because of my core values. And one of the values is excellence. This book talks about that. When you're doing stuff you don't like, call upon your core values. What are your values? Forget the way you feel and call upon your values. Now, the third thing I want to highlight from this book. So I've highlighted 2 things now. Let's keep going. Nneka, please help me watch my time, right? Help me watch my time. You can stop me whenever you want to stop me because I know you're going to engage me. I hope people can hear me here. I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear, right?
100%, 100%. Please, let's drop our comments in the chat room just to be sure that we can hear Mr. Onyia.
Yes, if you can hear me. You know, I'm fired up. I'm excited. I'm so passionate about this stuff. I love emotional intelligence. You guys need to get this book, man. It has changed my life. Even though I'm an expert in this area, even though I'm an emotional intelligence practitioner, this is one of the best books I've read on this concept, even with 70 books on emotional intelligence in my library. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here at Laterna. I'm telling you the truth. The third thing I saw from this book, a lot of it I practice already, but this book reinforced it. Nneka, look at the third concept. I love it. It says here, you need to focus on results. You need to focus on results. So sometimes, again, your energy and motivation is depleted because you're stressed out, fuel prices are going up, you don't have enough people on your team, somebody has fallen sick and they're not at work today, and you as a manager, you as a person need to focus. Look, regardless of how you're feeling, forget the way you're feeling. Emotional intelligence is not just about how you feel. Sometimes you don't feel like going to work. Sometimes you don't feel like doing something. And what this book teaches is that one way to energize and motivate yourself is forget the way you feel and focus on results. I love a quote from the book, and maybe you saw it. It's from one of the renowned artists. I think his name is Chike. I forget his second name. He says, look at what he says in the book. He says, inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just come to work and get the job done. Let me repeat that. Inspiration is for amateurs. If you're an amateur, wait to be inspired. You don't need to be inspired every time in life. You just got to get the job done. The rest of us just show up at work and we get the job done. I love it. You get the job done. You get the job done, though. So look, there are times you will not be inspired. A lot of us in Nigeria today, unfortunately, we're feeling the grief. We're feeling the pain of the issues here. You need to read this book to keep moving. So focus on results. Now, another thing from the book, it's not just about, focusing on results and your core values and all that. There are some times that your emotions have to align intelligently to what you're doing. So it talks about finding purpose, finding meaning, and finding a why in what you do. Let me give you an example. Many years ago, I lost a younger brother. His name is Ikenna. And Ikenna was 24 years old when he passed on. I was 29. That was the worst day of my life. I was devastated when I lost my brother. Now today, after 27 years of losing my brother Ikenna, I started a resilience school named after him, Ikenna, the school to immortalize his name. The name of the school is Ikenna, the School of Resilience. So even though I've gone through pain, even though I grieve for my brother's loss, I've been able to find a why, find meaning in his loss. And this book teaches us that sometimes in life, we may go through a devastating period. We may lose a loved one. We may cry. We may be down and out, downtrodden. But look, in your pain, you can always find a why. You can find purpose. You can find meaning. And so even in the loss of my brother, he was 24, Ikenna, today, to immortalize his name and memorialize his name, we started the school, Ikenna, the School of Resilience. And this book talks about finding meaning, finding purpose, and having a why, even when you're going through so much in life. Let's talk about something else. It talks about women in this book. I love it. It talks about women. My mother is a woman. I have a lovely wife who's a woman. I have daughters. Women are so awesome. They bring the sixth sense. They're intuitive. You know, somebody was talking about putting a board together, NECA, and they had like 4 men and only 1 woman. I said, no, go and have an equal number of men and women on your board. And this book has a particular chapter on how women who have risen to the top and how they must remain energized and motivated in the face of a male dominating that we have. How does a woman stay motivated? Let me tell you. It talks about a couple of things a woman must do, and I love this. Number one, she says, it says in the book, it says, learn to supercharge yourself psychologically. What does it mean? You know, re-energize yourself, motivate yourself, find something psychologically that will supercharge you. Look, if it's swimming, go and swim. If you like to pray, go to church. If you like to garden, go and garden. Find a secondary passion. You know, your primary passion is, you know, rising in the corporate ladder, but you must have a secondary passion. You like to play piano, go and play piano. You like to swim, go and swim. You want to go to a Bible study, go to Bible study. Find something as a woman outside that office that supercharges you and puts you up, puts you on turbocharge. Find something so that you can keep energized and stay motivated. The second thing it says about women, I love this, is to find an ally on the team. You know, at the ESCO level, at that director level, at that very high level, or even in the management level, senior manager, if it's male dominated, a woman may be feeling de-energized, demotivated. One of the ways to energize and motivate yourself as a woman is to find an ally. You may not, everybody on that team may not like you as a woman. In fact, they may want to shut you down. They've come again, all these women, they get emotional. And I tell men that they should never make a statement like that. Don't tell a woman that she's being emotional or she's making decisions based on her emotion. That is an unintelligent thing to say. And it simply shows that the man lacks emotional intelligence. The woman is emotional, just like the man is. Let me tell you a secret. Men are very emotional. Men and women are equally emotional. It's just like men. Men hide their emotions. They suppress it a lot. Women talk. That's why they live longer, arguably. Why do women live longer? You wonder. Women live longer. Men seem to, you know, anyway, let's leave that topic alone. You say, so find an ally. Find one guy on the team that you can connect with, who's always there to support you and who you should rise. Rather than focus on fighting with the other members on the team, focus on bringing value to the organization. Focus on having a purpose in the organization. Add value and deliver purpose in that organization. The book talks about resilience. And Nneka mentioned it again. You know, there are times you're down and out, and it says every time you're feeling down and out, look, it's not about enduring forever and ever. There's a way you want to endure, you will break down. You're human. To remain motivated and energized, get some rest. You like to sleep? Go and sleep. Get 8 hours of sleep. Rest, be re-energized, and then come back, right? And then let me close with this, finally. You know, there's a chapter in this book, Nneka, that says that sometimes people, managers think, this is for managers think that to motivate people, the Maslow theory, hierarchy of needs, is the only way to go. You know, when you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, yes, it energizes and motivates employees at work. So people need the basic things. They need shelter, food, water, and all that. That's the Maslow, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yes, I'm wrapping up. I'm done wrapping up here. And the book says, look, the way to motivate people is not just through the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Give them autonomy. Allow people to have autonomy at work. Give them leeway, right? Allow them. Help them find meaning at work. Let them contribute meaningfully. There are a lot of managers that want to shut people down all the time. You demotivate people and de-energize your team when you do not allow them to have a bit of autonomy and allow them to speak up. So I'm going to end there, Nneka. Thank you so much. This book has changed my life. There's so much to say here. I just don't have enough time. you know, to do this. Anyway, Nneka, over to you.
Wow. So, Mrs. Morgan, you know, when I saw the agenda, I said, should we not allow Mr. Onyia just talk us through the book and then we spend a few minutes asking questions? And I say that because it's something he's very passionate about. And I say it unequivocally. I'm not saying it because he's here. I mean, I've told people to go and meet him. Just go and meet him. You would like your encounter with him. And for me, when he said the statement, right, I wrote it out in big font when I was reading. Inspiration is for amateurs. I wrote it out. Inspiration is for amateurs. And what that does for me personally is, okay, Nneka, you are right in not waiting to feel inspired to work. And many people are experiencing that as well. So just keep doing what you know you need to do to get the results you require. Again, I want to say these two things. If you haven't read this book, do well to order it today. Don't delay. Do well to order this book today. It's a small book as well. So it's not something that will take you long to read, but the impact is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Another thing that stood out for me, sir, and I was happy that you talked, because my first question to you was to address the issue of women at senior level. When I started reading that part, you know what happened to me? I kept on going, oh, so it's not only me. So it's not only me. You know, I recently got into a new role, new level. So I'm like, oh, it's not only me. It's not only me. I'm not the only one going through this. You know what I did? I started asking myself, who has access to women at senior level that I know that I can introduce this book to? So, Mrs. Morgan, I called somebody and I said, I came across this book. You deal with C-suite women. You need to get this book. She said, oh, send me the title. I sent her the title, took a screenshot of some of the pages. And she said, wow, we are going to use it for our August book review. That's what she said to me. We are going to, she said, you said Laterna has it. I said, yes, Laterna has it. She said, they're going to use it for Laterna. It is so, I think that at every point when a woman is changing levels, companies need to get this book. So that the woman, there's something about knowing that you're not alone. There's something very powerful. But sir, I wanted to talk about DPR. You mentioned DPR, right? And how it sits at the heart of leveraging your emotional intelligence. I say leveraging because we all want to believe that we are intelligent and we all have the capacity to be more emotionally intelligent. The question is, if you don't know how and why and understand your capacity, you may not be able to use it very well. So I want you to speak a bit about DPR, that desired positive result. Maybe give us 2 or 3 instances where if you focus on the DPR, you are able to harness the power of your emotional intelligence, right, to deliver. Over to you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Nneka. Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So let's focus. And DPR is at the nucleus. The kernel is at the foundation of your all emotional intelligence. DPR stands for the desired positive result. So people who are emotionally intelligent, they focus on DPR. So write that formula down, EI equals DPR. Now, so let's use 1 or 2 examples. So Nneka, when I was back in the law firm in Los Angeles, you know, we represented top clients. The city of Los Angeles was our client. We had Pacific Bell, AT&T. These were Fortune 100 companies, you know, General Motors and things like that. So there was a day I was handling a case, I think, for the city of Los Angeles. And at that point, I was a litigation attorney. And remember, I told you that I don't like writing. Now, so my boss, the partner who I used to report to, left the firm. We used to work 9 to 9 every day, 12-hour days, I mean, long hours. At 9 p.m., my boss left and I remained in the office, getting ready for the case for the next day, writing, researching, and all that. Those things in Nneka don't come naturally to me. So emotionally, listen carefully, emotionally, I wasn't inspired. I wasn't excited. I wasn't, you know, what will I say, enthusiastic about writing. I wanted to be in court the next morning where I could argue my case, which is what I love to do. But I remained in that office. It didn't happen often till 5:30 a.m. in the morning, Nneka. I was to be in court at 8 a.m. the next day. Now, what did I do? Listen to me very carefully. The DPR was to get to court at 8 a.m. that morning and present that case on behalf of the city of Los Angeles. Now, but emotionally, that night, I wasn't really inspired. Now, what about intelligence, emotional intelligence? You know what I did? Intelligently, I said to myself, Chike, listen to me very carefully. You don't need to be energized, motivated, or inspired to write this document and prepare for court. What you need to do is intelligently focus on the DPR, focus on the result. So when you're not energized, inspired, or motivated, focus on the results. Focus on your core values. My core value, one of them out of 10, is global excellence. So I remained in that office till 5:30 in the morning, preparing the documents for that case. Guess what? I went home, drove home about 45 minutes out of LA downtown, took a shower, dressed up in my suit, arrived back in court, Superior Court, downtown LA, another 45 minutes drive. And at 8 a.m. in the morning in NECA, I entered that courtroom. Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Chike Onyia, on behalf of the city of Los Angeles from the law firm of Martin & Martin, LLP. Good morning, counsel. Please proceed. No sleep. No sleep. And thank God we did very well that day. I believe that at the end of the day, we were successful. So I focused on the DPR. Imagine if I allowed my emotions, the lack of inspiration, the lack of passion for writing, for research. Imagine if it undermined my work that day. So the DPR is always very important. The DPR is always, for a woman, another example, a woman who is a senior manager or a manager like yourself, okay? She's in a role there. What should she focus on? Emotional intelligence is DPR. She's in a meeting and the men are trying to take over the meeting. They're trying to bully her. They're trying to shut her down. You women have come again. And you know the culture where we live in today. When a woman starts talking, some men, not all men, some men are gentlemen. They're very, I would never behave that way. But there's some men who are not culture. Some men who are not gentlemen. They're rude. They want to shut them. Madam, leave this thing. You have come again. That's the way women talk. Very bad. You know what a woman will do? She may get really angry during that meeting. But what she would do is emotions of anger. She would tune in very quietly. I'm very angry at this man who just spoke to me. But what is the DPR here? The DPR for me is to calm down and express my point and express myself in a way that they have to listen. You know what she may do? Very calmly. She won't shout. She won't abuse the person. She won't stomach. She'll just look at the guy. Let's call him Gabriel and say, Mr. Gabriel, I take exception to the way you've spoken to me. I think your words are very disrespectful. I am a woman. I'm an emotional human being. Yes, you are also emotional. You need to allow me to make my point. Here's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. And I need you to apologize for the way you've behaved. MD, I'm not going to let this happen. I'm not going to take this. I'm not going to tolerate it. You don't need to shout as a woman. You don't need to insult anybody. Remain calm. Remain focused on the DPR. The DPR there is to communicate your position. So, Nick, I hope those two examples have helped us there. The DPR.
Thank you very much, sir. So, audience, I would like to know if anyone has any questions to ask at this point. I note a comment that somebody dropped where the person says there's a difference between inspiration and motivation, right? And that's so true. There is a difference. We need to get the job done. Nobody who is successful continuously is inspired and feels like showing up, right? It doesn't happen anywhere. We look at what needs to be done. We look at the impact that needs to be had, and then we go and we show up. So DPR, your desired positive result. And you know the example Mr. Onyia gave for a woman in men's, sometimes it's even for a woman and junior colleagues as well. You've got, like, as you were talking, I was asking myself, how do I focus on the DPR at every point in time where there's tension, there's pressure? You're familiar with how our work environment is, and how do I constantly remind myself that NECA, there's a DPR, keep your eyes on the ball and see how you can guide people. One of the things that comes strongly through in the book is the need and the benefit of empathy. How when we show empathy to others and when we show compassion and when we do that, how it is rewarding for ourselves. Okay, it's such a powerful theme all through the book. Okay, I see Temitope Olawe's hand up. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you, Neka. Thank you, Mr. Chike Onyia. I must confess, it's been very interesting. So I've been glued to my phone while walking. So,
You're welcome.
so I have a question. Mr. Onyia, you said there was something you said that I wrote down, but over the course of the discussion, I was like, you know what? I had a question around where you said when motivation dips, or maybe that was one of the points in the book. When motivation dips, focus on the results. Now, my concern with that is that what happens if the result isn't what you want? What then happens to future projects? I feel there's a tendency for you to now want to seek motivation because you're like, oh, the first one I did, I focused on result and it didn't work out the way I wanted. I think I will focus on motivation. I'm not sure if you get what I mean, but could you speak to that a bit?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, Temitope, thank you so much for that question. I mean, one of the things emotionally intelligent people do very well is that they know that failure is a part of our lives. It's a reality. Get used to it. Teach resilience. People need to understand that failure, you will fail at something. I don't care who you are. I don't care whether you went to an Ivy League school, whether you work for a top firm in the world, whatever, who you are, you will fail. Some results you will never get. You will fail. Get used to it. I'm not a prophet of doom. That's not a negative prophecy. That is just an acknowledgement of the reality. So even when you focus less on motivation and focus on the results, you may still fail. The real question is to go back and ask yourself, why did I fail? What happened here? And emotionally intelligent people take responsibility for their own failures. They do a diagnostic test to determine what went wrong so that the next time around, you will do a better job. As a lawyer, there were times when I wrote things and maybe my boss didn't like it. It didn't come out right. In fact, I remember my first letter I wrote. She crossed it out. Yeah, with red pen everywhere. You know what I did? For me, that was a failure in my writing, right? You know what I did? I opened up a file, a manila folder, and titled it Arriva Martin's Corrections. That's the name of my boss. I worked for her for 7 years. Arriva Martin's Corrections. And I put, even though I didn't feel happy, I put that correction in a file. And the next writing, the next document, the next letter, I brought out that corrected letter and followed it. So yes, there are times that we need to be motivated. Let's be clear. Being motivated is very important. Being inspired is very important. Being passionate is very important. But what this book focuses on, this particular book, there are other books in emotional intelligence that talk about passion, enthusiasm, and all that. But in this particular book, the reason why I love this book is because it talks mainly about the times when our inspiration, our motivation, and our passion dips, when things are not going so well in our lives. Like what's happening in our country today. A lot of people are going through stuff. Every Nigerian needs to read this book. Right now, every Nigerian must read this book to deal with the current situation, prices, inflation, and all that. So Temitope, I hope I've answered your question. You always need to go back and ask, listen to me, why did I fail? You will fail at something. That is not a negative prophecy.
Yes, you have. Thanks for clarifying. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tope. Thank you for asking the question, right? And for me, as you spoke, right, I'm just asking myself, women again, and maybe because I'm a woman, I'm going through this now, right? The need to find out how you recharge. And it's not just for women. Okay, let me say it this way. An article in the book says resilience is not about how you endure, but how you recharge. That for me is life transforming. So I am not sitting in an issue and saying, oh, can't I endure this? Why am I not able to endure it? Why am I breaking down? Why am I feeling so sad? Why am I frustrated? No, it's saying that is a sign that you need to go and recharge. Another thing that stood out for me, right, is the need for you to be intentional as a woman about how you recharge. And she said something that the person that was being interviewed for that article said, many of us as leaders, as we rise, we earn more, but sometimes what comes to our minds is to save more. And she talks about spending as a way to help you recharge as well, right? Another thing that hit me there, I want you to talk about this because I struggle with this. overwork. She says when you have a lot of work to do, what you end up doing is is a trap. You say, let me do more so that I can get on top of it, versus leave the work and go and clear your head. And it just looked like the person had read my life, right? Because the tendency is, oh, there's so much to do. Let's stay. Let's see how many of it we can get done before we shut down. And saying, no, you are not being effective that way. So I want you to talk about that a bit. Now, that dilemma between there's overwork, my emotions are, I literally feel like I'm at my wit's end. I'm struggling. What do I do? How do I deal with this?
Right. Nick, I'm so unfortunate that we're all grown adults now and we're learning these new principles. This is something we should have been taught in primary, secondary, and tertiary school. I mean, clearly it's a vicious cycle. You keep working and working and working, you're stressed out and overwhelmed. At the end of the day, you're burnt out, right? And your productivity dips, whether you know it or not, whether you like. That's when people start making mistakes and all that. So intentionally, I like what you said, Nneka, and deliberately, you need to get to a place when you feel exhausted and tired to take a break. It may just be going to the movies, going to swim, playing some piano, gardening. You have to be there. Whatever you do that charges you up, that gives you a turbo charge as a woman or man, you have to do it. For me, the way I recharge in Nneka, I love to read. I just lie down on my bed. I've been reading this book. Every evening I'm lying on my bed and my wife is beside. I'm sure she was wondering, what is this book he's reading? I've been digging in, and she's watching her tennis, for example. She loves tennis. I'm there not watching any tennis. I'm reading the book. The book is a way for me to recharge. And I do it deliberately. It doesn't matter if hair likes, let it freeze. It's not my business. I will just focus on recharging so that I can come and present this book properly today, right? Can you imagine if I came here stressed out and overwhelmed? I won't communicate articulately the way that I've done today, hopefully, right? By God's grace. Thank you so much, Nneka.
Thank you very much, sir. So I want to ask, does anyone else on the call have a question we want to ask? Because we are approaching the top of the hour, and we would also need to have some time. I'll just create my indulgence to allow us to extend to about 1:05. But I want to ask if anyone has a question. While I wait for that, one of the things that came through for me, you talked about an ally, and she said, you need to be able to talk to people. One of the things that came through for me as I read was I asked myself, should I not have a weekly schedule of a ranting session, where you just go in and there's someone you feel safe that you can just talk to, and lay it all out, So it's almost because I was reading about the place that talked about energy in the office, the energy that people bring to the office. And I want you to talk about that, okay? Because I asked myself that, Nneka, if you're going to show up with positive energy that contributes to success of the business, makes your team members more productive, then you've got to find a way to detox. That when you are tense, there's frustration, you don't carry it straight onto the team, because somehow as human beings we've got to find a way to let out. So I want you to talk about, as we begin to wrap up now, this issue of the energy especially when it's the office that is bringing the stress. How do you work that? So because, and again, I want to say this, some of us have just joined, okay, someone is asking, yes, the review will be on YouTube later. And two things I want to ask you to do again. Number one, get the book. Number two, if you haven't been in Mr. Onyia's training on emotional intelligence, and this is not him telling me to do this or anything, it's from my experience. It changed my personal life. Maybe that's why I'm passionate about it. It didn't just end at professional. It's still changing my personal life. It's affecting how I'm dealing with my children on a daily basis, sir. So that's why I'm saying this. This is not even an advert or anything. Follow him on LinkedIn, get his book. If you're a senior leader, because I see a lot of names coming in here, if you're a senior leader, get Mr. Onyia to come and engage your executive team, your senior management team. Get them this book. It's a short book, 100 pages in terms of real content. The rest are ads and references and all that. Laterna has the book. It's 7,700. The value you will get from this book cannot be priced. So please, I can see senior leaders' names coming in here. Get this book, get it for your leaders, for the women, for the men, and get Miss Onyia to get you to walk through an emotional intelligence, because it is something that is critical. So, sir, please, back to you on this issue of energy, especially when it is the office that is creating the stress for you. How, as a leader, do you balance that?
Yeah. So, Nneka, 3 things real quick. I know we're running out of time. You know, many years ago, I sat in my bedroom in LA, and this is crazy for some people. To me, it's not crazy. This would sound crazy. And this is not being morbid. I sat in my room in LA. Everybody had gone out, and I wrote my eulogy. I wrote a statement I once read at my funeral. And I'm not talking about dying. My prayer is that I live long to 120. But when I wrote that eulogy, Nneka, I extracted from that eulogy the 10 principles I want to live my life on. And those became my core values. So even going into the office when I'm not energized, I focus on my values, one of them being global excellence. Another one is gratitude. I'm grateful that I have a job. I'm grateful that I can make a living to take care of my wife and children. I'm grateful, right, for the job. That is a function of my core values. That eulogy I wrote, the statement I once read at my funeral about who I am. So that's number 1. Focus on your core values as you go into work every day. Obviously, you may be stressed out, you may be down and out. There's stress. The second thing I want to say, listen, focus on the things at work that bring you joy. So for me as a lawyer, even today as a consultant, I like to talk, I like to speak. So I'm not being paid for this session today. It's 1 hour, right? It's free, but I'm loving it. It's giving me energy. For the rest of the day, I'll be bouncing around. And even if I come in contact or I have to do a task in NECA that I don't like today in my office, I'm going to be happy and overwhelmed with joy because I've done something that is tailored around the things I love at work. The third thing in terms of energy at work is this time to rest, exercise, do something fun, read a book, go swimming, hang out with your spouse, your significant other, take your kid, something, just you got to do something away from work. So that's the answer. 3 things. Number 1, focus on your core values. And I hope and pray that everybody in this session today has a set of personal core values. If you come to my office, you will see my core values hanging up on my bedside. They're framed. They wake me up every morning. The 10 values I live by wake me up in the morning. Good morning, Chike, you're up. These are the 10 principles you're going to use to make decisions in life today. Core values. Secondly, try to focus on the things you love to do, even at work, amidst other things. And thirdly, leave time to recharge. Obviously, there's a place to communicate when you're being overwhelmed. Communication is key in the workplace, your boss, and things like that to try to help you. Delegation is also very key. The book talked about that. So, Nneka, I hope that's helpful.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. And again, we are pressed for time. If you leave us, this is a very important topic. I'm sure we can be here for the next hour discussing this. But I just want to reassure us that this is a concept that, like Mr. Onyia said, it's not, okay, there's a question, sir, from Mr. Morgan. He says to ask you, Pastor Morgan, to ask you, tell us a few of your core values. You said excellence, that anything you do must pass the test of time, the test of excellence in London, Dubai, New York, France,
Singapore.
I think those are Singapore, yes, those are the places that you've mentioned. Can you share with us? And someone asked, before you answer, so someone asked the question, how do you write down your core values? Mr. Onyia's approach was to sit down and say, what do I want to be remembered by? And I think that's just a powerful perspective, right?
Yeah.
To think legacy.
Yeah.
What would drive me, So, but please just share with us one or two of your core values. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's 1 p.m. Give us a few minutes and we will come to you. There's a question also, but we'll come. Please go ahead, sir. I'll pick all the other questions and just.
Okay, so the way I picked somebody asked, how do you pick your core values? Sorry, we're running out of time here. There are 2 or 3 questions you can ask. Who are the most important people in my life? What are the most important things in my life? What are the character flaws that I have and the cure for those flaws? So as I started writing my core values, the most important people, I picked godliness as number 1, God. I picked my family as a core value, godliness, family. Then what are the most important things in my life? Global excellence, integrity, gratitude, very important. And then what are some character flaws that I may have? So for example, because of my temperament, I'm melancholy, I'm a perfectionist. One of my core values is patience and tolerance. You need to be patient. So I selected a core value of patience and another of tolerance in there to make up these 10 core values, right? So that's how I selected those core values, Nneka.
Wow. I was scribbling to write because I want to do this myself. And it just clarifies 100% who is most important, what are the most important, and what are my flaws. Because those flaws are the things that will trip you up. Those flaws will be the triggers. Those are the flaws that will blind you to the DPR when rubber hits the road. So when you know, because I tend to be melancholy as well, when I know that a core value of who I want to represent is patience, and I know I'm easily tripped up when I meet people who are not as quick, and that's being honest, right? Then I need to remember, and that's the good thing about visualizing when it's by the bed, when it's in the office, you are always reminding yourself, I am patient, and so I'm not going to be tripped up by this situation that wants to trigger me. All right. Honestly, this session has been amazing. I want to say this. Please, please, and please get the book. It is 7,700. Contact Laterna on Instagram, on the website. The address is just by law school. Go and get the book. Follow Mr. Onyia. Gratitude is so powerful for us. And like he said, in Nigeria that we are today, there's a tendency to be just blinded by the bad news, by the everything going on, right? Please practice gratitude. Practice gratitude. So I can't thank you enough for the time that you've spent with us this afternoon. It's been amazing. When I got the invitation from Mrs. Morgan, I was so excited. Yes, emotional intelligence. And I know Mr. Onyia, that's going to be amazing. I was really excited to do this. And like I said at the beginning, Mrs. Morgan thought she was asking me a favor. She has blessed me in ways that I'm not going to forget in years. And I'm being very honest because just seeing that what I'm going through is common to other women has been a major relief for me. And I'm saying this with a sense of sincerity because just this morning I was ranting to my best friend about the pressures I've had to go through in the last 9 months I got into a new role. So just getting this book and knowing you are not alone in this struggle, this is what you need to do, has been a huge burden off my shoulders. Thank you, everyone who has stayed with us. The last time I was here, I am not sure we had up to 120 people on the call. So that tells me that the topic is of extreme importance to us and it's impactful, right? Yes, gratitude is important, very important. If you have to have a gratitude journal, and Mr. Morgan talk about journals in Laterna, get a gratitude journal, please. If you have to get a gratitude jar, I have people who do that, a jar where you come back every day and you must write down something you are grateful for. It's a practice. So it's on your bedside, it's on the dresser, it's on the mantle, in the walkway. You must pause there and write what you are grateful for and drop it into that jar. At the end of the month or something or week, if you open it up, there is no way your energy won't be better. And as a leader, I want to add that you should be intentional about detoxing so that the pressures don't get spread into the team and then impact productivity, thereby creating a vicious cycle because productivity dips and then the energy is down and productivity, again, it just continues that way. Thank you, everyone. This is a monthly event, and the whole idea is to promote a reading culture, right? Books are light. Books are light. And if we're in this call and all of them, maybe Mr. Onyia or myself, were in a dark room, if we wonder what are these people doing here, books are light. You've got to be intentional about getting knowledge, right? Get books, and Laterna will help you with this. You can get books, get knowledge, join sessions like this.